Hare Krishna, this morning we will be reading from
Hare Krishna, this morning we will be reading from
second canto, chapter 2, text 16. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Cheva Narottanam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jamudirayat Nastabheshya Bhadrasya Nityam Bhagavata Sevayam Bhagavate Uttamastoke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistike. Manasvabhutya Malaya Niyamya
Manasvabhutya Malaya Niyamya
Kshetragya etam ninayatam atmani
Kshetragya etam ninayatam atmani
Atmanam atmani avarudyo diro
Atmanam Atmanyavarudhya dhiro
Labdo pasantir virameta krityat
Virameta kritya
Manasvabhutya malayan yamyam
Manasvabhutya Malaya Niyamya
Kshetragya etam ninayatam atmani
Kshetragya etam ninayatam atmani
Atmanam atmani avarudya diro
Atmanam Atmanyavarudhya dhiro
Labdho pasantir virameta krityat Manasvabhutya malayan yamyam
Manasvabhutya Malaya Niyamya
Kshetra etam ninayatam atmani Atmanam atmaya avaruda diro Labdo pasantir virameta krityat. Please repeat.
Manasvabhutya Malaya Niyamya
Manasvabhutya malaya niyamya Kshetragyanitam ninayatam atmani
Atmanam Atmanyavarudhya dhiro
Atmanam atmanyavarudya diro
Ashanti Virameta Kritya
Labdo pashantir virameta krityat.
Manasvabhutya Malaya Niyamya
Manasvabhutya yamala niyamya Kshetragyaitam ninayatam atmani Atmanam atmanyavarudya diro Labdo pasantir virameta krityat. Manasvabhutya yamala niyamya Kshetra Hyametam Ninayatanatmani. Atmanamatmani Avarudya Diro. Labdo Pashanti Virameta Krityat. Manas Vabudya Malayan Yam Yam. Sheta Hyametam Ninayatanatmani. Atmanam Yavyudhyavyo. Labo Pashantir Virameta Krityat. But for a translation, Mana, the mind, Svabhutya, by its own intelligence, Amalaya, unalloyed, Niyamya, by regulating, Kshetrahi, unto the living entity, Etam, all of them, Ninayat, merge, Tam, that, Atmani, the self, Atmanam, the self, Atmani, in the super self, Avarudhya, being locked up, Dhira, the fully satisfied, Labda Upashanti, one who has attained full bliss, Virameta, ceases from, Krityat, all other activities. Translation and purport by Abhay Charanavinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. Thereafter, the yogi should merge his mind by his unalloyed intelligence into the living entity, and then merge the living entity into the super self. And by doing this, the fully satisfied living entity becomes situated in the supreme stage of satisfaction, so that he ceases all other activities. So, please repeat. Therefore, the yogi should merge his mind by his unalloyed intelligence into the living entity, and then merge the living entity into the super self. And by doing this, the fully satisfied living entity becomes situated in the supreme stage of satisfaction, so that it ceases from all other activities. Purport. The function of the mind are thinking, feeling, and willing. When the mind is materialistic or absorbed in material contact, it acts for material advancement of knowledge, destructively ending in discovery of nuclear weapons. But when the mind acts under the spiritual urge, it acts wonderfully for going back home, back to Godhead, for life in complete bliss and eternity. Therefore, the mind has to be manipulated by good and unalloyed intelligence. Perfect intelligence is to render service unto the Lord. One should be intelligent enough to understand that a living being is, in all circumstances, a servant of the circumstances. Every living being is serving the dictates of desire, anger, lust, illusion, insanity, and enviousness, all materially affected. But even while executing such dictations of different temperaments, he is perpetually unhappy. When one actually feels this and turns his intelligence to inquiring about it from the right sources, he gets information of the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Instead of serving materially for the above-mentioned different humors of the body, the living entity's intelligence then becomes free from the unhappy illusion of materialistic temperament. And thus, by unalloyed intelligence, the mind is brought into the service of the Lord. The Lord and his service are identical, being on the absolute plane. Therefore, the unalloyed intelligence and the mind are merged into the Lord. And thus the living entity does not remain a seer himself, but becomes seen by the Lord transcendentally. When the living entity is directly seen by the Lord dictates to him to act according to his desire. And when the living entity follows imperfectly, the living entity ceases to discharge any other duty for his illusory satisfaction. In his pure unalloyed state, the living entity attains the stage of full bliss, labdo pashanti, and ceases all material hankerings. Repeat the verse once again. Manas vabudya malaya niyamya chitra hyaitam ninayattamatmani. Atmanamatmani avarudya diro labo pasantir viramita kityat. Therefore, the yogi should merge his mind by his unalloyed intelligence into the living entity, and then merge the living entity into the super self. And by doing this, the fully satisfied living entity becomes situated in the supreme stage of satisfaction, so that it ceases from all other activities. Om Mahyanatimanasya Chinsa Shraka Shakshurmitam Yena Tasmai Shigurave Namah. Chaitanyamanopistam staptam yena bhutale svamrupakadamayam tadati svapadantikam. Vandeham shiru shiyuda padkamalam shirum vaishnavam sha. Shirupam jagatatam saganaragnatam vitam tam sajivam sadvaitam savadutam parjana saitam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Devam. Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sakanadita Shivishakam Vitamsha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinu Bandhu Jatpate Gopesha Gopka Kantarada Kantanamastate. Tapta Kanshna Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwar Vrishabhana Sutadevi Panamama Hare Priya. Pankha Kalpta Vishake Pasin Vrishabhatnam Pavanabhyo Vaishnavyo Namam. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Jai Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhaktavina. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vistaya Bhutani Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namane. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravanya Pacharini Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paskachai Desatarne Srila Prabhupada Ki. So I'm happy to be again in Deland and with all of you. This verse today is a very special verse, and the purport is filled with nectar. The purport we can speak hours on just on this purport, but Prabhupada gives the entire process how to come in contact with Krishna in your heart. That because that's the title of the chapter, The Lord in the Heart. That so it said the yogi should merge his mind. Mind, Prabhupada says, means thinking, feeling, and willing. That's the mind. That but when we speak about the mind, we have the material mind, we have the spiritual mind. Spiritual mind is described by Srila Prabhupada in the purport of, I think, 177 of Bhagavatam. That's the where Srila Vyasadeva is meditating on the absolute truth. That there in the purport he writes one sentence, and that always reminds me of this reality. Prabhupada writes there, the living entity, the spirit soul, has in its original state its own thinking, feeling, and willing. That so the spirit soul has its own thinking, feeling, and willing. But when we came to this material world, then we wanted to material activities. And you cannot do that with the thinking, feeling, and willing of the spirit soul. So Krishna gave us a separate mind, a material mind, for that purpose. But that material mind is a part of the subtle body. The subtle body has three elements: mind, intelligence, false ego. But false ego has no independent existence. Because when the mind and the intelligence is materialistic, that creates false ego, I and mine, identification with the body. That creates this false ego. That so Krishna conscious is there. We are going to purify this mind and bring it again to our original thinking, feeling, and willing. That's called the process of spiritualizing the mind and spiritualizing this intelligence. And that's called purification of the heart, or purification of the mind. That so this, but to do this, we need unalloyed intelligence, transcendental knowledge. That so we purify the intelligence by hearing transcendental knowledge from the spiritual master, and then we engage the mind according to this transcendental intelligence, the materialistic mind. We engage in spiritual activities, and by that is going to become purified. So that's here by unalloyed intelligence. What's the first word in transcendental knowledge? Aham Brahmasmi. We are spirit soul. So that's by the practice of this transcendental knowledge, which we get from the spiritual master and the scriptures, we bring that into practice. We engage the mind in focusing on Krishna, and by that we become aware of who we are. It starts with focusing one's mind on Krishna and hearing about Krishna. If you hear about Krishna, you fix your mind on Krishna, you get to know who Krishna is to a certain extent. But when we get to know who Krishna is, we know that we are not Krishna. We are the servant. We are the servant of Krishna. So then we start to understand our own position. So that is what the verse says. We get this intelligence, and then we find ourselves. We find out who we are. that a servant of Krishna, and then we start to serve Krishna. If you serve Krishna, you start to think of Krishna. So then the living entity merges into the super self, Krishna, who is in the heart. Krishna is in the heart. He says that in so many ways that the first thing to understand that Krishna is in the heart is that the super soul is the controller of material nature. Krishna says, Maya Dakshana Prakriti Shucha Checha Chacham, I'm controlling material nature. So we can understand Krishna explains, Isvara Sarvabhutnam Rijsayunatisari Brahmayam Sarvabhutnam Yantarudani Maya. I'm sitting in everyone's heart. And I'm directing the wanderings of all living entities who are seated in a yantra, in a body made of material energy. So Krishna says, I'm in the heart, I'm doing that as a super soul. But we can understand, yes, Krishna makes our heart beat and controls the digestion, controls all the systems of the body, the lymphatic system, the nerve system, all these systems. That's good. But this is the gross body, but Krishna as the super soul also controls the subtle body. Bhagavad Gita 15:15, Savashyam Vidishan Vishtimata Shmitara Namapamsam. I give remembrance, knowledge, forgetfulness. That is the mind. That's this. Krishna controls also the subtle body. So then we use the subtle body in the service of Krishna, meditating on Krishna. And yeah, I would say submerge the consciousness which is pervading the mind with devotion, and fixing the mind on Krishna in the heart. But Krishna in the heart is a super self or the super soul who controls material nature. But Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, I'm seated in everyone's heart. That I'm seated in everyone's heart. So it means that the super soul, Krishna says that also at the end of the 9th chapter, Samam Sarvabhuta Sunam Itveshti Chinapriya. I'm not impartial to anyone. I'm equal to everyone. That's the super soul. The super soul is described in Bhagavad Gita as the witness, as the permitter, one who gives the reactions of one's karma and so on. And he's equal to everyone on that point. But it says in that same verse, but for my devotee, I'm there personally present. And that's also confirmed in the Bhagavatam. I remember always this verse, 3:9:11. Brahma's prayers for creative energy. From Bhakti Yoga Parivada Paribhavitarit Saroja Ase Shutekshita Patona Tunata Pumsam Yat Yadirata Urgaya Vibhavayanti Tat Tat Vapupanayase Satanugrahaya. Oh my Lord, your devotees can see you through the ears by the process of bona fide hearing, and thus their hearts become cleansed, and you take seat there. So Brahma says, you take seat in the heart of your devotees. Krishna is already there as a super soul, but here Brahma is speaking about Krishna. It's taking seat in the heart of the devotee. You are so merciful to your devotees that you manifest yourself in the particular eternal form of transcendence in which they always think of you. Very beautiful. So there, Krishna, Brahma says you, the devotee becomes attracted to you. You become their Ishtadev and you appear as their Ishtadev in their heart. That, so this is special. So the devotee feels Krishna in the heart, the two-armed Krishna. Like in 11th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, there we had Arjun, he sees this universal form and he's not attracted, he's afraid of it, it's horrible. Said, show me again your four-armed form and your two-armed form. And then he shows the four-armed form, which is also the form of the super soul, Lord Narayan. That, well, it's a little different. It's the same form, four arms, and then the two-armed form. So the devotee thinks of Krishna in his heart, that in the form he feels attracted to. That, but interesting is we think of Krishna in our heart. That, that of course we are devotees of Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya, who is Lord Chaitanya? That is the same Krishna, but Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna, Nai Anga. It's Radha and Krishna together. That so the how do we meditate on Krishna in the heart? That it depends on one's relationship with Krishna. We have all a specific relationship, a unique relationship. We have all a different fingerprint, right? When you're coming to America, you have to give your fingerprint the first time you come. In India also, that it's unique. So we have all a unique relationship with Krishna. That, but Krishna reciprocates with our mood, with our bhava, move, our bhava. Krishna bhavana. Krishna consciousness means thinking of Krishna in a certain mood. That I think it was 2014 or so. I was in Leicester in the UK, and Bhakti Charamas came to give a seminar. And during that seminar, I asked him about the mood of our Guru Parampara, because you know, I think Bhaktivinoda Thakur is Kamala Manjari in the spiritual world, and then we have Rupa Goswami, Rupa Manjari, and so on, all Manjaris. And I asked him, is the mood of our Guru Parampara in conjugal love? And he said yes, predominantly yes, not all. There are exceptions. Murari Gupta was Hanuman. That there are a few exceptions, but mostly is in the conjugal love. That so that means that in our Guru Parampara, how do the devotees think of Krishna? That you can try it out, but first we meditate on our spiritual master. Our spiritual master is a servant of Srila Prabhupada. You feel Prabhupada in your heart. That in the heart of Prabhupada is Lord Chaitanya. And in the heart of Lord Chaitanya, always Lord Chaitanya is non-different from Radha and Krishna. So the advanced devotees now movement is Radha Krishna in their heart. And that is very beautiful. And of course, this is about a living entity coming in contact with the super self. Because this is the beginning of the Bhagavatam. The previous chapter was the description of the Virat Roop. First, this is for the atheists who do not believe in Krishna, but they accept the universe as God. And then this Virat Roop, that we have this Virat Roop. Sukadev Goswami is encouraged them to worship this Virat Roop, accept it as God. And by that they become purified. That's the beginning. But this is here for the advanced, how to come in contact with the super soul in the heart. And we see Lord Krishna in the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam. You have the wives Brahmins, the wives of the ritualistic Brahmins. They had developed love for Krishna by associating with the Pulindas, the fruit vendors in Vrindavan, and also with the gopis who were selling their milk at their door. Every day they had absorption in Krishna Katha. By that they developed this love for Krishna just by hearing, but then they got opportunity to cook for Krishna and came to the forest, Ashoka forest, where Krishna was with the cowherd boys, and they offered all their food. And Krishna said, "It's very nice you have come. That's very nice. That it's very commendable that you have developed this deep love for me." So he said, "That's very good." But he said, "It's not by my physical proximity that you develop love for me. No, you should go back to your husbands and engage again in your daily sadhana. And by that, you will come in contact with me within the heart, because I'm everywhere." Of course, they followed Krishna's instructions. A lot to say about that. But we see also Krishna with the rasa dance. All this, he plays his flute, and all these gopis run to the forest, attracted by him. And then Krishna says, "Why did you come?" It's very dangerous in the forest. All these animals and so on. And you should go home, do your duty, take care of your babies. Why are you coming? And he tells them the same thing. Just think of me. I'm in your heart. And that's the way to develop love. Of course, it didn't go well with the gopis. They didn't follow his instruction. They will, by their love, they will make him appear again after he appeared in the rasa dance, and that he had to associate with them. But we see Krishna is always saying the same thing, that if we come in contact with Krishna in the heart, we become completely satisfied. So this is what the verse says, but Prabhupada goes much more deeper in the purport. And he explains the whole process, and especially he says here, because this is in Bhagavad Gita, that in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the purpose of Ashtanga Yoga is explained. Chitatmana Prashantatma Paramatma Samahita. That one controls the mind. One controls the mind. When one conquers the mind, one becomes peaceful. And when one becomes peaceful, Paramatma Samahita, one finds Krishna in the heart. So that's the purpose of yoga. That also at the end of the 6th chapter, Yoginam Apasarvasam Matyanantaratmanam Shadvam Pachiteyamam Samayukta Tamamata. Highest yoga is one who is united in love with me within the heart. So that's a very beautiful. In the purpose, Srila Prabhupada says, the Krishna consciousness means following the dictations of the super soul within. So Krishna speaks to us from within, but we don't hear his dictations because the mind is materialistic, is absorbed in so many things in this world that one of our acharyas says, I think it's Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in Madhurya Kanambini. What benefit can a living entity get from thinking of a material object? Nothing. The soul feels no benefit by that. Of course, we chant Hare Krishna and the lips move, but many times the mind is absorbed in this materialistic thinking. It's thinking on solving problems of the day, of making our shopping list and so on. And the lips are moving. But that means, yeah, we don't have the taste yet. Because the mind is too materialistic, absorbed. So we have to train the mind and train the mind to engage ourselves in spiritual activities, in devotional service. That's the principle, man mana. Think of Krishna. Krishna says, Bhavamat Bhakto, then you will become my devotee. But the mind is very stubborn, wants to do other things. We start to chant Hare Krishna and the mind wants to do other things. Prabhupada says, yes, that's Krishna consciousness is war with Maya. Where is Maya? Your mind is Maya. It's your mind. That's the problem. That the mind wants to do something. So Prabhupada said the mind must be manipulated by good intelligence. That intelligence is the intelligence Krishna gives us in Bhagavad Gita, and which the bona fide spiritual master repeats that. Because if we are under control of the mind, we are under control of the dictates of desire, anger, lust, illusion, envy. That if we are under the dictations of the super soul, then we are feeling ecstatic, blissful. So to go from one state to another, from the liberated to the first we have to go from the condition to the liberated states, and then from the liberated states to the state of love of Godhead, our original state. 3 stages. That also in the chanting you have these stages. That's aparat, namabhas, and then Sudanam. That these are also 3 stages. that so yes, and then Prabhupada says we should inquire from the right sources to get information about the loving service of the Lord. That is called our sadhana, the practice of this knowledge. But it's a process. It's nice to say Krishna is in your heart, but feeling Krishna in your heart is something advanced. Is advanced, an advanced state. Feeling Krishna constantly in your heart, and therefore the Bhagavatam is training us. First, learn to see the super soul everywhere. That see how everything in the universe is connected with Krishna. Factually, there is only Krishna in this world. And that's the difference of consciousness of a devotee and a materialistic person. A devotee sees a flower, and a materialistic person sees a flower. They see different. A materialistic person thinks, oh, let me get the beautiful flower and sniff on it. A devotee sees a beautiful flower and says, oh, Krishna is the greatest artist. He had created such a beautiful flower. And I want to have that flower to offer it to my deity, to offer it to Krishna. That's the difference. So a devotee sees Krishna everywhere and sees everything as an opportunity to engage in devotional service. A materialistic person sees the world and sees everyday opportunities to engage in sense gratification. So it's a reformation of consciousness. Reformation entails a reformation of character. Change of character means developing spiritual qualities. And that is developed. These spiritual qualities will develop as a result of engaging in unalloyed devotional service. Much more to say about that, but over time already. Any comments, questions? Yes.
Thank you. I'd like to ask you if you can say something more about soul's own thinking compared to conditioned.
So the question is what is the difference between conditioned thinking, feeling, willing, and liberated or devotional thinking, feeling, and willing? It's just the materialistic thinking, feeling, and willing is based on a misconception. This misconception is a misconception of I and mine. That we think that I, this body, and I'm the enjoyer. And mine means that is for my enjoyment. These are two errors. And these errors come from illusion, ignorance. So that conditioned thinking, feeling, and willing is based on ignorance. That ignorance is of 5 kinds. This is explained by Brahma. Or in the beginning of the creation, he creates these layers of ignorance, which is pervading all the universe. Because without these layers of ignorance, there can be no conditioned life. It's not possible. That so the first is one forgets Krishna. If one forgets Krishna, what's happening? You forget your own identity. And when you have forgotten Krishna, because we have a need to identity, we accept the body as a false identity. The false I comes. And then the next misconception is that this is mine. This is for my enjoyment. And then the next layer of ignorance comes. That is suffering. Because everything. But when one tries to enjoy, one will suffer. And then the fifth layer is andatamisha. I'm going to die. But we are not dying. We are eternal spirit soul. There are 5 layers of ignorance, and the mind, intelligence, is absorbed in these 5 more kinds of ignorance. That, but the devotional or spiritual thinking, feeling, and willing is centered around Krishna. And one understands I'm a servant of Krishna. And I want to serve Krishna without any condition, without getting anything in return, just for his pleasure. That means out of love. That is spiritual love. Spiritual love means acting for the pleasure of the senses of Krishna. So the center of attention is completely different. First is I and mine. That's the center of materialistic thinking. And that is expanded in many ways. That I and mine make America great. and get them all the benefits. Everything must become mine for America. So it's expanded. That not against America. It's just any nationality. It's the same problem. It's I and mine. That and it doesn't make all happy. The more you have material, the more you become entitled. The more you have, the more you entangled you become. That because it creates attachment. But spiritual thinking, feeling, and willing is attached to Krishna and to give Krishna pleasure, and that brings us in contact with, you have the material thinking, feeling, and willing, brings us in contact with the modes of nature, passion, and ignorance. But the devotional consciousness brings us in contact with the spiritual energy, the highest spiritual energy, Ladini. Not just Samvit, Samvit or Sandini, Samvit, Satchitananda. It brings us in contact with the highest spiritual energy, Ladini. And that contact brings us in our original state of Ananda, ecstatic bliss, which is unknown by those absorbed in material consciousness. So we are all absorbed in this material consciousness. We do kirtan, and sometimes we get a glimpse of that. But we cannot maintain it. Therefore, we have to purify our heart.
Put it in a different way. My question, like with some kind of So let me try to explain it. That how you can understand soul as all spiritual body, all spiritual mind, and now we are here in this material world. So yes, we understand that when we are doing devotional service, our body and mind will be purified and will be spiritualized. But still, we cannot do things with this spiritualized body as we are doing in spiritual world. So therefore, I was asking about our mind. We have mind is a subtle body, but as I understand, mind, body, everything soul has, it's a same platform.
Yep.
Am I right?
This,
Yes.
that Prabhupada says this is a gross hand. Underneath the gross hand is a subtle hand. It's there. And the subtle hand can only exist because there is a spiritual hand. The senses are there. So our spiritual body is there, but it's covered over. And our spiritual thinking and willing is there, but it's covered over by this material consciousness. And one who is in materialistic consciousness, this original thinking, feeling, and willing is inactive. But we have to make it active again. So you have the material mind. The material mind, spiritualizing means killing the material mind. It disappears. And then that's the platform of liberation. Then we don't take birth again. When we have purified, as we are purifying this thinking, feeling, willing, our original thinking, feeling, and willing become manifest again. And when it's full manifest, we are Jivan Mukta. We are in this body, but your subtle body is gone. It's spiritualized. And then you get liberation. You go to the subtle body. Does that make sense?
Yes, I understand. Thank you so much. Part of that question was that because our subtle body can change, our spiritual body in spiritual can be changed. Can be changed, like for example, we can serve Krishna. What needs to be done? Like if Krishna wants to, I heard that if Krishna wants to swim, so we can turn our body for some lake or some stream, and he can.
No. So on the spiritual platform, spiritual means unchanged, eternal. So we have our eternal relationship with Krishna, but we have forgotten. And that will manifest at a certain time. Yeah, Svarupa, when we come to Bhava. And then it will be natural for us to serve Krishna in a certain way, because it's our eternal Svarup. And we see that in Birad Bhagavatamrita, there Gopkumar went to Vaikuntha, but he didn't want to be there. Although he's in the spiritual world, he wants to go to Golok because that is his Svarup. His name was Svarup. that when he came back in that yeah.
Therefore, I'm asking because I heard that when you are, yeah, I know this about Swaru, but also I asked Maharaj that if your Swaru can be changed, and he said that yes, can be changed when you develop different, to serve Krishna in a different way. It can be changed. But what I heard also that you can play with Krishna, and if Krishna wants need something, you can change your just temporary your form to serve him in that particular case, and then going back. So, but therefore, I asked in the beginning that this, although we have our subtle form, spiritual body, but it's still limited because we are in the material. It's still limited.
Our spiritual form is not limited to any material condition. It's not possible. It's transcendental. That's for sure. That's for sure. But we are limiting ourselves by the pollution of our consciousness.
Yes, I was thinking in the way that it's limited in the sense that it's limited. This body has some particular form. Our spiritual body is it not also limited by this material body? I would say no, but I wanted to just ask you if it's confirmed by you. It's also not limited.
We are limiting ourselves by the pollution of our consciousness. Otherwise, there's no limit in the devotional service. But our limit is that we are acting according to the circumstances Krishna gives us, either in the material or the spiritual world. In the material world, we are servants of the circumstances that Krishna gives us, but also in the spiritual world. Krishna explains that in Bhagavad Gita, at the end of the 15th chapter. He says, there's a condition soul and a liberated soul. In the next verse, he says, but I'm above, and I'm controlling both. But in the spiritual world, we are controlled by Krishna's spiritual energy, which gives us much more freedom. But we are always limited in comparison to Krishna. So unlimited for us is limited by Krishna. It depends on him, what circumstances he gives us. And that's also in the purport here. We are servants of the circumstances Krishna gives us, always. Okay, thank you very much. Good. Yeah, one last question, yeah. Okay, we speak after. Thank you. Hare Krishna, Jai Prabhupada.